Hi there, heavy haulers. Today we're going to be taking a look at Torklift's StableLoad suspension enhancement system for lower overload springs. These are available in either stainless steel or black, and there are two different kits available. You can either purchase our no drill kit, which is mainly designed for a lot of the newer models out there, as well as a universal kit, which is again mainly designed for those older vehicles, and there's going to be some drilling involved with the universal kit. Luckily though, StableLoad provides the drill bit that you'll need included with the kit. An easy way to determine which kit you'll need, you can see where our StableLoad is bolted through our overload spring here. If you have an existing hole there, then you can use the regular no drill kit. If you have no hole here, then you will need the universal kit. One of the things to look for is a rubber grommet, because a lot of them that do have a hole there, they may have a rubber grommet pushed in there, and you can just push that grommet out and then you're good to go using that hole. When pivoted and engaged, they will rest in between your overload spring and your leaf spring, ensuring that contact is going to occur sooner, so you're going to be getting all the extra support of your overload springs without having to wait for your leaf springs to sag down and contact them. What this means is you can put more load in the back of your vehicle before you'll notice the vehicle dropping down and starting to sag, because it's going to be getting that extra support from your overload springs. So it can help keep your vehicle level under a heavy load. Since this also stiffens up our entire leaf spring assembly by keeping the leaf spring assembly in contact with the overload spring, it's going to help reduce sway on the vehicle, because we have now a stiffer suspension here at the back of the vehicle. So when you're making any evasive maneuvers or you're hitting potholes and uneven pavement, you're not going to have so much rocking back and forth, which can be really important if you've got a heavy load in the truck, because once a heavy load starts to rock one way and back the other, it can start to get a little bit out of hand. So by stiffing it up, you gain control of that heavy load in the back of your vehicle, making it easier for you to get to your destination safe and sound. Now you can see here our customer has airbags installed in his vehicle as well. And airbags offer a lot of the same benefits that our StableLoad does, but with this we can use them to work together to get the best load leveling here at the back, as well as the best support for heavy loads we're going to be placing in our truck. And there are some differences between them. They're both going to help support heavy loads in your vehicle. Airbags though are going to use air pressure to do so. What's nice about airbags is you can adjust the pressure independently from one side to the other to help compensate for uneven loads. With our StableLoads you can do that, but you have to do that by removing plates, and it's not really the ideal way to compensate for an uneven load. But with airbags you do get a bit of a porpoising effect. So when you go over bumps and first your front end goes up and then it comes down and then your back end comes down, well, as the weight goes down and up on our airbag, you're compressing the airbag, and then the airbag's air pressure is actually pushing it back, causing your front to dip back down again. So it causes kind of a back and forth oscillating motion a little bit with airbags. With the StableLoads, we're getting the benefit from our overload springs, which don't really act like air pressure and expand completely. It's just kind of there for extra support. And by adding the StableLoads to an airbag system, you can help minimize that porpoising effect by engaging your StableLoads. Another thing I like about the StableLoads is that you don't need any air supply in order to adjust them. You just put them in, you can add more plates if you need to adjust it, but there's no air required, so you can kind of just do it with the tools you probably already got sitting in your truck. Now you don't want to think of these as a replacement for airbags. They are their own independent system that's going to offer load leveling support, minimize sway, and assist you when hauling heavy loads. Your airbags do similar things, but they can definitely work together with one another to give you the most comfortable and safest experience when pulling a heavy load with your truck. You'll receive 4 StableLoad assemblies with your kit, so you'll be able to install one at the rear and front of your rear leaf springs on your truck for both the driver and passenger side. Another thing I like about this system, unlike some of the other suspension enhancement systems, such as the ones that replace your jounce bumper with a heavier duty upgraded jounce bumper, is that this system can be disengaged simply by just sliding the StableLoads stack out from between your leaf spring and your overload spring. We simply pull the pin, give it a little twist, And our suspension is now acting just like it did from the factory. Whereas your jounce bumper styles are always going to be there. And so even when you don't have a heavy load in the back of your truck, sometimes those larger upgraded heavy-duty jounce bumpers still provide contact between the frame and your axle, which can give you a pretty rough ride. We're now going to load up our truck and take it out on the test course. We'll first show it with the StableLoads disengaged and then with it engaged. We're loading up our truck full of 5-gallon buckets of sand to simulate a load. Here you can see our StableLoads are disengaged, which is going to act just as if you didn't have anything installed on your vehicle. So with our StableLoads disengaged, we're heading out onto the test course now. We'll start by going over our uneven bumps, which is going to simulate rough pavement like potholes. And I can feel how it's throwing our truck back and forth here. It's throwing it pretty good. Now our F350 here's already got pretty stiff suspension in it, so it feels pretty stiff now. I expect it's going to feel a little bit stiffer when we get our StableLoads in, but I'm expecting it to not throw us back and forth as much. We're now in our forward and back, just our regular straight speed bumps, and that's going to simulate going over just like a regular speed bump. And I could feel the front dipping down, and the back felt very stiff, but our front was wanting to dip down and bounce up and down a lot. We're now heading into the slalom section of our course, where we're really going to tell here how much body roll our truck has. And it doesn't feel terrible. You know, our suspension's pretty good here on our new truck, but I can feel it throwing us back and forth a little bit. We're getting pretty aggressive with it. Now we'll engage all 4 of our StableLoads and then hit our test course again. To engage them, we're just going to pull the pin here and then twist it in. Now it's pretty tight, so we're going to use a 3/8 inch ratchet with an extension on it. Click it into the square here, and this way we can get a little bit of assistance from leverage to twist it in and get our pin reinserted and locked into place. We're going to repeat that for the 3 remaining StableLoads. With our StableLoads engaged, we're going to head back out on our test course. Starting in the uneven bump section. Oh man, and it is definitely an immediate difference. Now we are still getting tossed a little bit here, but you get tossed and it's right back. Before it was kind of you get tossed that way and then it wants to go this way and then back. Now it's there and then straight back. The StableLoad, you can feel that extra pressure bringing it right back to straight up and down. We're now in our straight section again, going over speed bumps, and it's very similar as it was with the side to side. We still have the dip motion, but we've limited the amount of up and down bounce that we have afterwards coming back on that rebound. We're now going to head into our slalom section of the course again. And oh boy, yeah, this is another place where it's a big difference. From what I've noticed here out on our test course is that as far as roll's concerned, this does a much better job than your airbags and your other jounce bumper style systems. It's almost like we put a different sway bar on it. And one of the things I noticed just driving through the parking lot, as far as comfort goes, I was really expecting the StableLoads to stiffen our suspension up to the point where it was going to be uncomfortable inside, but it actually smoothed it out by adding that in there. It's as if we're not bouncing quite as much as before. I thought it was just going to be real stiff and a sudden impact, but it actually kind of eased it in there to where I just feel it's almost like a softer suspension in a way, even though we know it's stiffer. We just got back from our test course, and I gotta say I'm pretty surprised at the results. When the StableLoads were engaged, the amount of roll that it limited when we had it engaged, it's gonna make a big difference going down the road, especially if you're hauling a big trailer behind you. It's gonna help keep that stability when you're driving it, not having to compensate so much to keep that thing in a straight path whenever you hit any kind of divot or pothole. So this is going to make it easier for you because you're going to have more energy when you get to your destination because you weren't fighting it so much, and you're going to feel safer, and so is your family that's riding along with you. On top of the roll, it is going to have some effects as well with your loads in the back as far as dipping it down. Engaging those springs is going to help prevent our truck from sagging as much, and the further your truck sags in the back, the more you're diminishing your handling and braking performance. By preventing it from going down as much, we're keeping our suspension closer to its factory ride, which is going to ensure that we have better road contact between our tires and the road surface, and our weight's going to transfer properly onto the brakes so we can stop in a shorter distance than we would without them. And one of the final things I like about the StableLoad over other systems, such as your airbags, is that they're completely maintenance-free. We just have these metal plates that engage our leaf spring between our overload spring. So with airbags, you have air pressure that's going to change with temperature, and you're going to have to keep an eye on it. And you also need to adjust it if you are performing any maintenance or something on your vehicle and you had to take the air out of the system. With these, you just slide it over, it's off, you slide them in, it's on. They're always on there, so you can kind of forget about having to worry about anything. You just install it and you're good. We'll give you a quick close-up here on how our leaf springs react with and without the StableLoads engaged. I've currently got them engaged, and I'm going to bounce up and down the back of the truck. And I weigh around 200 pounds. Let's go ahead and disengage them and see the difference. And now with our StableLoads disengaged, you'll see our leaf springs moving, but you won't see the overloads moving. Now I'm probably not heavy enough to make it fully go down and contact the overloads like before. So as you can see before, we were getting the benefit of our overload spring every time I bounce up and down on it, so we weren't dipping down quite as much. And when we removed it, we were just depending upon our leaf springs to do the same job without the overload spring. And that completes our look at TorkLift's StableLoad suspension enhancement system for lower overload springs.